back to the Majority Report. I'm Michael Brooks. Joining us now is Owen Jones. He's a columnist for The Guardian and an activist. Owen, thanks so much for joining us.
What an honor. What a huge honor to be here.
So, Owen, I'm a longtime admirer of your work. I think you're someone who has a sort of perfect kind of synthesis of a global, genuine left perspective and solidarity, which we're hopefully developing, and a very specific understanding of British politics, which those of us that are interested in the UK in and of itself, and I think now many of us who are interested in any counter trend to the disaster that we've been in for the last several decades, in fact, are inspired and interested by. You have a new column. We're going to get to the larger picture, but you have a column just published. And we played before we started the clip of Jeremy Corbyn speaking at Glastonbury, and the crowd really sort of rapturous for him, almost kind of. I mean, really, the only comparisons I could think of in modern politics would be Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. You talked and you kind of made light of this lazy trope that you see a different version of it here, but this idea is like, oh, you're middle class and you can afford to be at a festival, but you support Jeremy Corbyn. How ridiculous. Now, you explain why the socialism Jeremy Corbyn advocates is actually beneficial not only for those stricken by poverty, but in fact the middle class as well. I'd like you to explain that and also explain what you mean by middle class in a British context.
Yeah, well, we use middle class in quite a different way to people in the United States. To us, middle class generally means professional, more affluent. It means, for example, I don't know, more likely to be people with university degrees who do professional jobs. Working class for us is more likely to be I don't know, skilled workers, for example, people who work in offices, in factories, in supermarkets. So basically, the American concept of middle class is more our concept of working class, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Now, for a long time in Britain, the argument often used against the left is you will never, ever win over middle class voters, the more affluent voters in society who are under our electoral system seem to be absolutely critical to any government forming a majority. We have first past the post like you guys. That's impossible. So-called Middle England. That was always misconstrued. The real Middle England, the median wage in this country is about £26,000. I'm just saying, right. What is that in dollars? That's, I don't know. Here we go. I'm typing it in. Yeah. It's about $33,000.
That's a real journalist right there. As a commentator, I would have just made it up. Yeah,
got to be accurate.
Yeah.
So, that was the argument. But now what's quite comical is Labour having defied expectations. This general election was called by our calamitous Prime Minister Theresa May in the what seems like a lifetime in British politics, but it was only April. She called an election to crush the Labour Party, who at the time were on 23% of the polls. They ended up getting over 40%, running the Conservatives close on a radical left-wing programme, which was seen to defy political gravity. But some commentators in the aftermath, who had previously claimed there was no chance of any left-wing agenda getting anywhere near 40%, be looking to get 25, 20%, lots of those people felt. They've now said it's the wrong voters, that there were too many middle-class voters, that Labour hadn't gone, advanced amongst working-class voters. Mm-hmm. But the argument actually is, what's so, I think... just so pioneering about this form of socialism which is being reborn in Britain is it's a coalition of working class and middle class voters. So, for example, one of the policies which Labour has committed to is to abolish student debt. Mm-hmm. We've got some of the highest levels of student debt for people punished for aspiring to an education in the entire Western world. And the argument used by centrists was this is just a handout to the middle classes. But of course, Labour, under the left, should be arguing to help both working class and middle class, those middle income families and also those who are in poverty. And that's the coalition we're building. And what's so fascinating is because Labour went into this election saying the top 5%, those earning more than £80,000 a year should pay more tax.
Right.
Corporation tax should go up. It's still, by the way, a lot lower than it is in the United States, even after Labour plans to increase corporation tax, as well as the so-called financial transaction tax on the city, which caused the City of London, which caused a financial disaster here in Britain.
That's your Wall Street.
It's the equivalent of Wall Street, exactly. Right. That we can use that money to invest in public services. Now, the Blairite, New Labour, centrist, our equivalent of the Clintonites, if you like, they would have argued if you ask the top 5% to pay more money, middle-class voters will be repelled, because even if they're not in that top 5%, they aspire to get there one day. There's that expression in the United States, isn't that? You know, all Americans feel they're millionaires who've fallen on hard luck.
Right.
And it was that sense, that was the argument used. But it didn't work. We had an increase in middle-class support, including people who might one day earn over £80,000 and be asked to pay a bit more money. So I think what we're seeing is all the claims about the left of being upturned, that you can build a potentially winning coalition of working class and middle class, of the more affluent and the poorest in society. And that is how we're going to transform American society, British society, and societies across the Western world.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos